Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. I'm April Perry and I'm here with Jill Adams, one of our amazing team members who's going to help us today to talk about how to organize digital photos and our keepsakes. And I'm so excited. So welcome, Jill.
Hello, it's so nice to be here.
We have had so many questions come in, especially in our STEP program. People asking, how do you organize digital photos? How do you organize all those keepsakes? How do you not only organize them, but how do you put them into some type of a format or some type of a system so we can actually enjoy them and see them and utilize them? And Jill, you have really made this a study. You've learned how to do this with your children, with your family, and I would just love to just really pick your brain today. I'm here to interview you and ask your advice.
Yes, well, this has definitely been a work in progress in the Adams household for sure. So I feel like I have learned a lot along the way, and I'm just happy to share the few tips that I have learned along the way, and hopefully it'll be helpful to other people as well.
Now, we are going to put the outline to this on the show notes page, or we'll have a little way you can get the outline because there's going to be a lot of information we're going to share. Our goal is not to overwhelm anyone because it can feel like a lot when you're thinking about all of the albums, all the pictures, all the things that you have. But what we're trying to do today is put this into something that feels really doable, feels very step by step, where if you are at the point in your life where you're ready to do something more with your pictures, then you could jump into that. If you want to just kind of listen and look at it and think about it and think, oh, we'll put this on our someday list, that's fine too. We don't want to overwhelm anyone. But because we all have our phones with us right now and we have more photos and videos than ever before, there's thousands and thousands of pictures coming in, and we want to leave some type of order for our grandchildren, our posterity. So, okay, why don't you just go ahead and let us know where we're going to start, and we'll just kind of jump in, because I even feel a little stressed talking about it because I have so many pictures, and I have them organized by year and camera, but I don't really ever print them or use them. And so I'm a student today, and I really want you to help me not to feel overwhelmed and feel like, hey, this is something really doable. Can you do that?
Yes, absolutely. So I think the key is just taking a moment to gain a little perspective. And, when you take a moment and just look at where you keep all of your photos first, I think that is a beautiful thing to start with. So for instance, yes, you have them on your smartphone. You have them maybe stored digitally. Maybe you have, Google Photos, Amazon Photos. Maybe you keep them on a hard drive or your computer. And then maybe in your basement, you might have tubs and tubs and tubs of random photos from your children, random photos from your past, maybe your spouse's past, from growing up. Maybe if you've lost your parents, maybe you're the hub now of all of those long-term photos. So first, yes, I know. We just talked about that not long ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
But I think that's where you start from, is just seeing, kind of doing like a little bit of a mind sweep and saying, okay, where is it that I have all of my photos currently? And just starting with that and just writing that down, because that right there is going to take some of the pressure off of your brain, because you're like, okay, I don't have to think about where all of these are. I'm just going to jot them down. And so all the different places that you have to start from. So that would be step one.
Okay. And we're not necessarily sorting or managing or making decisions and all of that right now. We're just making sure our brain knows, hey, this is where they are. Either on the cloud or in my basement or whatever.
Yes, exactly. And that worked really well for me. And then when we had the quarantine hit, I finally had that opening of space in our family, where I was able to, okay, like I know where all of these things are and I know where I need to start from. And that was the first time I really felt like I had some, concentration time to devote to all of these different areas. And so we had a lot of fun going through and kind of starting the process, with our own family photos. And we definitely made it a very fun project, not only for myself, but for my family as well.
I love it. Okay. So I think that step feels good. I can sit down and say, okay, here's where the photos are.
Yet, right?
Yeah. Here's where the digital photos are. Here's where my hard copy photos are. Yeah, I can do that part.
There you
Okay.
go. And
What's the
and
next
here's the
step?
thing. Once you have that list of where all of your photos are in all the different areas that you have, as far as storage goes, that is great. You can just take that and just kind of put a pin in it and come back
Hmm.
to it again when the time is right for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be done today. You know they're there, you know they're safe, and it's just a matter of getting them a little bit more organized. So just knowing that you have them somewhere safe, like that's just kind of like a breath of fresh air right
Yeah.
there.
No, I feel good. I feel like that my brain can wrap itself around.
Yes, yes. So, what I did next is start with all of our physical photos.
Okay.
So, we had just honestly tubs and tubs of random photos that had just kind of gotten thrown into tubs through the years. Whenever I would get pictures back from school, whenever I would get
Mm,
sports photos back, if my mom would be like, "Oh, look at these cute photos I just found," and maybe give me a pack of like 20 photos from my childhood or something, I just
yeah.
had this box that
Yeah.
I just literally threw all of my photos in.
Okay,
And it
wait,
was
just
like,
you saying that right now, my mind just opened again because at first I was thinking all of the photos we've taken on our digital cameras and then all of the hard copy photos we have. But now I'm thinking, oh yeah, wait, we have that also another box of all the kids' school photos. We also have the family history photo albums from Eric's grandma and my grandma. Oh man, okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back and add that to the list that we made in step
there you
one.
go.
You're
Yes.
just you're opening up all these other areas. I thought, oh darn it, I've got a whole lot more than I thought I had. Okay, okay, keep going.
Yes. And I honestly, I mean, there are just so many different areas, and I don't know if you ever got into the scrapbooking phase way back
One
when.
page, Jill.
One page. That's about the same as myself. Like I have like one, like I think I ended up with about 4 pages when my first son was born, and I had about 4 pages of my husband and I when we were engaged, and that was as far as I got with scrapbooking. So I'm like, oh, I spent so much time on these, 8 whopping pages
Yeah,
of scrapbook memories, but I don't want to get rid of them because I mean they're memories, right?
right, right.
So, anyway, that's where we started is just collecting all of the physical photos
Hmm.
and bringing them all together to see exactly kind of visually what we were looking at. And for me, I have this really long hallway in our basement where we keep all kinds of like storage supplies and different things. And it's carpeted. And so what we did is we turned on some music. We got all the tubs out so we could kind of see everything. And what we did is just started pulling the pictures out of the boxes and just organizing them in a very, very logical way.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is, starting off with labels. So you could do it really simply and just start off with like little index cards and just label it by year,
Yeah,
starting with 2020 right now,
yeah.
just make a label 2020 and an index card for 2019 and just start putting the pictures in piles according to the year.
Yeah.
And that worked really, really well for all of our personal photos. But then I realized that there were also a few other categories that I wanted to use. And some of those were things like my husband's extended family and some of his history.
Mm.
Same thing for my side of the family. So those I didn't put into years to start off with. I just got all of those pictures from our past and just put them into like Larry's side of the family, my side of the family. And
Mm.
for me, it was easier to kind of designate in between like the Pop and the Edwards side of the family, some of those old pictures that I had. So I just kind of organized those older ones into groups like that
So
to start
even
with.
if they happened over a span of 10, 20, 30 years, you just put them in one pile.
Yes.
Okay.
And to me that just seemed really logical because, when I got the pictures, some of them had dates on the back of them, some of them didn't. But
Yeah.
honestly, that's the beautiful thing about projects is that when you're going through and you're working on a project, it's so easy now to identify, oh, this one is going to be another sub project. There's definitely
Right.
going to be like in a beginning point, there's going to be an end point to sort through all of those like distant family photos, pictures, things like that. So,
And I love
um,
that. I'll just add one quick thing in here. I
yeah.
just did that with, we had loose photos. So I just inherited all of my parents' family albums, and my dad kept them like religiously. We have an album from like when he was first married, with like with his baby album, and then when they were first married, and he just kept all of our pictures. We have our whole history of our family. So I'm the caretaker of the photos in the family. We're getting them all
Oh.
digitized, so all the kids in the family can have a copy and give them their grandkids and things like that. So that's the project that I'm working on right now from the previous generation. But one of the things I noticed is that he also gave me a whole bunch of loose photos, and I divided them up like, oh, these are all of his army photos. I don't know how long he was in the army, but these are all the photos from the army. So we scanned those together and we put them into one little package. Or here's, their wedding photos. So those are all together. Or here's, like his side of the family, pre when, like, before he and my mom got married. And so things like that. I did notice that we started already kind of sub-categorizing those, and that was really helpful to just pull them out and not make them part of the
Yes.
consecutive year by year photo organization.
Yes, I love that so much. And again, it makes sense, obviously, to your brain to just kind of pull those out and just
Yeah.
have all of those groupings together. And again, another project later on could be to go and, maybe make up, a little bit of a story binder or more of a keepsake about his time in the army. Maybe there's some
Yeah.
letters, or something to go along with those that you
Years in
could.
the future, Jill.
Yes,
But yes,
yes.
but it's nice to have that as an option. You're right. And think about it, but you can write it down and put it on your someday list, right? It's not.
Exactly. That's it. Just write it down and it's good to go. Put it into your step system. It won't be forgotten. It
Mhm.
can be there when and if the time ever comes to, dive into those things.
Yeah.
But it's so fun to just go back and, just kind of start getting some organization to all of those things so you can enjoy them. And ultimately, that's why we're here today, is
Yeah.
to really just help everyone to enjoy the photos that they do have and not to feel overwhelmed by them. That is the ultimate goal.
I love that. Okay, so I feel really
So,
good about your step 2, where we did
okay.
the index cards or putting them in categories. Did you want to talk about any of the other categories that you created?
Something else that was really helpful was as we were going through, the year by year for our personal family photos, to jot down on that index card where we went on vacation that year.
Okay.
Um, and if, what year in school the kids were. So when we came across
Mm,
photos that didn't necessarily have a date on them, there might be another trigger in the photo that would be like, oh, yeah, that was this year. Even something like Halloween costumes, maybe they wore that year, where you spent certain holidays, maybe at one person's home versus another's,
love
on
that.
different sides of the family. Maybe special events that happened that year, maybe a family wedding, any special family trips that you took, just different things like that that might help to trigger everything that went on during that one year. So that was really helpful as we were going through and sorting as well.
I like that you put that on the index card so that you had it right there. And if you're
Yeah.
sorting digitally, you could note that in the file structure, something like that. Put it onto the name of that folder or something.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, step 3 is just after you have all of your index cards or folders, whatever you want to use to label all of your years, is just to spend some time going through and enjoying those photos and putting them in the appropriate year. And
Hmm.
again, if you come across some that you aren't exactly sure, maybe for earlier in life, you could put my teenage years. So it's a span of 10 years and just
Yeah.
put all of your teenage photos in that. Like they don't need to be like, super crazy ambitious when you
Don't
get
get all
to
stressed out.
organizing. It's just, this is a process, it's just going to help to simplify things. And really, if you're looking at a photo from 1995 versus 1991, I mean, you know what, you're
Yeah.
just going to enjoy it just the same, whether or not you know what year it was,
I was a
right?
child. I was a
Yeah.
teenager. We'll just call it
Yep.
whatever.
Teenage years were good.
Yeah.
So, yes. And then, moving on, as you're going through all of your different photos and keepsakes, you might also find that you are locating some things that aren't even necessarily pictures. You might
Mm.
have some things that are more, maybe it's artwork or maybe like a marriage certificate or different things as you're going
Yeah.
through kind of your keepsakes. So this was kind of something else that we decided to move forward on ourselves. And that was to create little keepsake boxes.
Mm.
And that has worked out really, really beautifully for all of our kids. We have 4 children, like you do. And I know that you talked about having bankers boxes for your kids.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where we just kind of took that idea and just took it one step further and just kind of got all 4 kids the exact same Rubbermaid tubs. So that way
Awesome.
we wouldn't have to worry about, any weather, if there was ever any,
So
flooding
smart.
in the home that we were living in, anything like that.
They
Protect them
don't
from
wear
the
out
element.
for the most part. They'll last a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah, super smart.
Yeah, so we got four tubs for each child. So granted, we're talking about 16 tubs here,
Yeah, yeah,
but they weren't like the ginormous ones. But I mean, they're probably, I don't know, like 2.5 feet long, maybe by like a
yeah.
foot high, something like that. And my husband actually has these nice shelves in our basement that fit perfectly for storage tubs. So everything just fits all along this wall in our basement. So they're out of sight, out of mind. They're not cluttered up anywhere. And again, our intention is that when the children all move out, that they get to take those four tubs with them. And basically how we labeled them, the first tub is for any memorabilia, different type things from ages 0 to 5, ages 6 to 10, ages 11 to 15, and then the last one is ages 16 and beyond.
And I need to just pause here and let everyone know who's listening that Jill is actually a real person because it sounds like, oh my goodness, she's got the garage organized and she's got the tubs all set up and everything's all perfect. And she does. She does a really good job organizing, but she's learned how to do this in the midst of also living a crazy busy life and having ups and downs and all that too. So I just want to let everyone know you're human.
Oh my goodness.
It
You have no
sounds pretty
idea how
amazing.
human
I just
we
want
are.
to, make sure everyone knows we're all human. Okay, I'll just stop there.
Yes.
We'll keep going.
Oh
But this is so
goodness.
good.
Oh
This is so
goodness.
good.
Yes, we have. I'm talking about one wall in our storage room downstairs. We won't talk about the other wall that still needs some attention.
I just think people
It's
feel a little
that's
better
a project for
knowing,
another day.
knowing everything isn't perfect on this side of the podcast, right? Like, it's just
Yes.
helpful. So I'm just throwing that
Yes.
out.
And I mean, I'm just right here with you, like, and probably everyone listening to this podcast. I mean, I just had this like heavy weight, I felt like when it first came to talking about photos. And I just knew like this was the one project that if I could move forward on, that it would just make my heart feel so much better because
Hmm.
I did have an oops with a hard drive and I lost a lot of photos of
Oh.
my kids when they were younger. And the funny thing is that when we went through and actually started this process where we started pulling out all of the physical photos from my kids, I thought that I had like none, like that I had lost like all baby pictures of my daughter
Oh.
and my second son.
Yeah.
And I found baby pictures of all of them. I just hadn't looked in that tub in
Oh.
years. I
That
mean,
must have
like
made you feel so
over a
much
decade,
better.
honestly. And it was
Yeah.
just like, I mean, my heart like soared. And
Yeah.
of course,
It's a big
my
deal.
sisters had some pictures and stuff, that they had taken. So, I mean, I would have had some, but I mean, all those ones that you take yourself of just like cute little moments, I mean, I just felt like part of me had just been stolen, like
Right.
those are my precious memories. And I don't
Yeah.
remember things very well without that actual photo to trigger my memory. So, just
Yeah, it's
going through this
powerful having those
process,
back.
oh my
Hmm.
goodness, like I was like on cloud nine, I think, for
Mm.
weeks and weeks and weeks
Oh.
afterwards, just because I was like, oh my goodness, like here are those pictures. And I just didn't realize that I did have some physical printouts of those ones that I had digital as well.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that I did lose that hard drive, I've been able to go back and piece things together. And I don't have any like major deficits, so to speak, in
Yeah.
our family
Yeah.
history now that I've been able to go back and, piece together all of those physical
Oh,
photos
I
with the
love
digital
that.
ones. And I know everyone now today, like they're almost 100%, digital. But, back when you and I were having our initial
Yeah.
babies, there weren't any
Right?
digital photos at that time. Like, so we just had physical
We
photos to
order
start with.
doubles and send half to grandma.
Yes, yes, that is exactly what we did.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so it was a lot of fun going through, like I said. And when you come across those things, and so what we use the tubs for, not only was it for photos, but maybe, like they're coming home from the hospital outfit or a special blanket or a special toy
Yeah.
that they absolutely loved when they were 2 years old. So just having a place that is just there. And
Yeah.
those tubs, like my children and my family know nobody is to touch those tubs, even if they're empty
Right.
right now,
Yeah.
because not all of my children are that age, but I wanted them all the same. So they just
Yeah.
looked really
Smart.
nice and
And they
clean.
stack well and you know what they
Yes.
are. And I love that. Like I found my dad's first baby rattle. So this is from the
Oh,
1930s, something
wow.
like that. Oh my goodness. I want to be able to keep that. But yes, having a tub for something like that. Awesome.
Yes, yes. And I think just having that designated helps so much when you come across those different keepsakes along the way. So,
Okay, so I'm visualizing your basement right now, and part of your garage, and I'm visualizing all of these categories with the index cards, things labeled, all those photos out. Plus, you've got the keepsake boxes where you can put those items that aren't photos. And so now you're getting some kind of order created. I think
mhm.
that sounds awesome. Okay, so then what's our next step?
So the next step is to make some decisions. Now, don't get too scared now.
Okay.
These are not tough decisions, I promise. All we're going to do is decide if we're going to display any of these photos, if we're going to store these photos, or if we're going to digitize these photos.
Okay. And some
So,
of them could be multiples. You could digitize
yes.
all of them, but also display and where you're going to store and all
Yes,
that kind of
yes,
stuff. Okay.
exactly. So just doing a quick little sweep around your home and just saying like, okay, I have maybe a blank wall right here that I would love to put up some memories of our family. And so as you're going through the process, you can be like, oh my gosh, like this would be such a great picture to, maybe blow up, or maybe I'd want to make a
Yeah.
canvas print of this one
Yeah.
because it just catches that look of your child when they were 4 years old and just have that ornery little
Mm-hmm.
grin, and you just don't ever want to
Yeah.
don't ever want to, lose that image in your mind, different things like that. So, and again, it's not going to be a lot of them that you're probably going to display in your home, because I mean, you may have a few walls or, a few ledges here and there, but for the most part, these are going to be either digitized or they're going to be stored either way.
Yeah. And
So,
just pausing real quick, because Jill, I have like mostly blank walls. I have a really hard time. We've lived in this house for 3 years now. I have a really hard time deciding what to put on the walls and which photos to put on there. So I have a lot of blank walls like everywhere in my house. And I don't want to just cover it with all photos of my family. Like, want to say I'm kind of saving room for art that I might buy later. I don't know. I don't want to I don't like having tons of clutter everywhere. I don't want to spend a lot of money on frames or, invest a lot in creating canvases that I don't know I'm going to want forever. So I have a hard time making decisions. Could you give me just a quick piece of advice on, and these are kind of like sub projects or future projects, but how do you decide what you're going to display? Can you just give me some advice here?
I think the best advice on that is just knowing that in the back of your mind. Like step one would just be to take a look around at your walls and just seeing, okay, is there just one spot if I could put up some family photos, like where would that be?
Yeah.
Just to kind of get a size, orientation or where that's going to be. Are people going to be greeted by those photos as they walk
Yeah.
in? Are these going to be more just for you? Maybe it's like right outside your bathroom,
Yeah.
as you're walking past it every day that you want to see it for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Just kind of, asking yourself those questions where you're going to enjoy those photos.
Okay.
And then as you're going through this process, and again, we are all about the microbursts and taking 10 minutes at a time to move forward on your projects. But
Yeah.
let's be honest, if you are truly going to go in and tackle your photos from day one on up, it is going to take some time and it is going
Yeah.
to take some work. But it can be so fun because let's be honest, when you start going through old photos, whether it's of your children, whether it's of your own childhood, you are going to laugh
Yeah.
and you are
Totally.
going to have a great time. Like you just need to pop some popcorn maybe and just like make a whole night of it. Just look at
Oh,
your
I love
schedule and say like,
that.
when do I have time to go through these? And then just having that in the back of your mind, like that space as you're going through and you're just enjoying your little party, like looking at all your
Yes.
photos. When you come across one that just makes your heart leap with joy,
Yeah.
that is the one that you're going to want to put up.
I love that. And I think what I'm going to do, because this is actually helping me, I'm realizing like I have a blank wall when I wake up in the morning. We have a big wall right when people walk in our house. We have a big wall up by where our TV is. Like we have walls all over. And I think I just need to say, like, what's that feeling? What do I want to say with this wall? What's the feeling I
Yeah.
want people to have? Like when they first come in our home, it's kind of nice to have a conversation piece that's right there, right? Sorry, I don't want to get off track, but like this is super helpful to me because
Yeah.
I think like I'm not here to brag and say, oh, look at the places we've traveled. I don't want to do that. I just want the feeling to be, hey, welcome to our family. We're here to greet you. Maybe there's some stories about these photos that'd be fun to tell. And where people could feel like, oh, here I am. The Perrys just invited us into their heart, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I want that feel to be. when I wake up in the morning, it might be like, what are those pictures that just make me laugh? You know, they're just so sweet and so cute and like those little moments. Yeah, okay, I love that. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I love where you're going with this. Exactly. I mean, it's just, your home is such a special place. And I think that, displaying photos is really important. I've read all kinds of studies and different things about how it boosts children's self-esteem when they
Yes.
see photos of themselves and like
Mm-hmm.
even from when they were at a young age, it just
Yeah.
really makes them to feel important and that they are truly a key,
Mm.
person in the family, even at a very young
Yeah.
age
Where
when
do
they
they
maybe
fit?
don't feel like they're contributing a lot, like it makes them feel so important as part of that family.
I
And
love that. I think
yeah,
adults too. I think it makes you feel like, hey, I'm doing something, like I'm building something, you know? And even if
yeah.
you don't have children, being able to have pictures with your dearest friends or mentors or your parents or, those relationships that matter. I think that that's really an important part of just being a human, being able to
Yeah.
see these photos. Love it.
Yes, absolutely. So I am definitely someone who would promote digitizing all of your photos just for
Hmm.
safekeeping and, like you were mentioning earlier, passing them down for generations to come.
Yeah.
That is going to be such a huge advantage for the generations to come after us that we go through and take those steps to digitize everything that we have our hands on now,
Yeah.
just in order for them to share our family history with their children and moving forward down the generations. So I
Love it.
absolutely am a huge fan of digitizing photos. But at the same time, like I said, having those to display is great. And then you're going to come across some that are like, oh my gosh, this is such a great memory. And you'd like to go back and revisit that, more frequently. So I would just say pick a few albums, to keep around your home that you could just go and
Mm.
grab and add to as time goes on, as you come across, maybe, other fun events that your family does, or just kind of like a little for me it's kind of like a journal
Just
or kind of like a
snapshots
scrap. Yeah,
that
it's just
aren't like year
snapshots
by
of your
year
family.
necessarily.
Yeah, yeah. And just,
I
it
love
doesn't have to be anything
that.
fancy. Amazon has oodles and oodles of albums to choose from.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do one per child if you really wanted to, and then maybe one as a
Hmm.
family as a whole that you could do like vacations and holidays and things that you could add in, something like that. But just something that you could kind of put those ones that you aren't going to put on a wall, but ones that you just
Yeah.
want to enjoy more often than having them on only a digital
Yeah, and some
space.
people do like the chapbooks, and so they'll, take the favorite photos from the month or the year and then order a chapbook or something like that, where you can have them pretty much automatically just taken from your photo folder and then delivered. So, and we're not
Yeah.
sponsored by chapbooks or anything, but something like that, I think that's a great idea too.
Yes. I don't know about others out there, but what I have realized about myself, and again, this probably goes back to me losing my hard drive those many years ago, but I am an over picture taker for sure. I take so many pictures everywhere we go, like just because, again, I just feel like life is just pretty busy. Just
Yeah,
we're on the go quite a bit. And as I go back and I look at my photos, again, that triggers my memories and I can just enjoy the moment over again.
yeah.
And so I truly want to document everything.
Love it.
So
And I
when it
think we
comes
want
to like,
to. You want to feel like you can do that and you're
yeah.
not adding to your overwhelm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So when it comes to something like, chat books or, some of the other features or programs out there, that can send you automatic ones, for me, that would be overwhelming because, again, I
Mm.
take so many
Oh yeah,
pictures
yeah. Well, I think they just do like just one album on their phone is like for chapbooks or one special account. So you can, tailor
yes, you
it
can
because
tweak
yeah,
it for
you
sure.
can't have every picture. For sure.
Oh, look, it's a picture of 45 different takes of the sunset.
Right,
Wow.
right. It's more like save the best. Well,
Yes,
have you heard
exactly.
of a pigeon frame? Sorry, just one more random thing. You heard of
No,
those?
I don't think so.
We got a couple for Eric's mom and his dad, and essentially it's a frame that's connected to the internet, and you can add photos to it to your phone, like to a special. You just upload it to their app, and so all the grandkids have the app that they're logged into, and anytime any of the grandkids adds an app or any of the children, then it appears on their frame. So like his dad is in a home right now because he has, he's getting older and has some dementia. And so on his frame, our most recent photos we just put into the app are appearing. So he gets to see what we're up to without getting on Facebook or something like that,
Yeah.
So, and there's just lots of ideas, and we're not trying to like overwhelm anyone with ideas, but I think it's just kind of fun to open your mind and say, well, what would work for my situation? The way that I work, for my budget, for my time, my family. It's just nice to have just a few options to think about.
Yes, I love that. That is so neat. And I love how it's connected in real time because
Yeah.
a lot of the digital frames, obviously, you have to, use a jump drive and upload
Yeah,
pictures to
I never
it.
do
And so
that.
it's, yeah. Oh, what a neat idea. I love that. So basically, once you've kind of decided on that, you've picked out some albums that you can put just a few pictures in that you want to keep. You've picked the ones that you want to display other areas in your home or a wall. So now we get down to digitizing photos. So when it comes to digitizing, there are so many great options out there. That part alone can be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
There are tons of great free services, with Google Photos, Amazon Photos, different things like that. Or you can just keep it nice and simple and just use a hard drive to keep
Mm-hmm.
all of your photos on. So as you earlier when we were talking about going through and kind of putting all of your physical photos in the different order as far as like the years and kind of making those special notations. That is the same exact method I would use when you are ready to digitize your photos. So
Mm.
just start off with something simple and starting with the year.
Yeah.
And one more note on that, I would definitely start with where you are right now. So like it's 2020 as we're recording this. I would start in 2020 with your most recent photos and just get those up and organized just right here and right now. And then again, as you have time and you can work in these little microbursts, then you can go and start working your way backwards through all of those other folders and all of those other years. But just start right now this year, and then moving forward, it's going to be so much easier. I just definitely recommend that versus going back and starting at, year 1942,
Right.
because
Oh,
it
yeah.
can
It
be
feels too
such a long
overwhelming.
time for you to really be enjoying today's photos in that nice new organized fashion that you are setting up.
Now, do you
So,
just want to share what you personally use, and I'll share what I personally use, just so people, because there are a lot of options, but you mainly do Apple Photos, is that right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I do.
And hard
Um,
drives, and the cloud?
yes.
Okay.
Yep, yep. So we do both. Again, I just want to be super protected. So we do pay for the storage on the iCloud
Okay.
for Apple Photos.
Okay.
And I think it's $10 a month. But to me, that is so worth it
Yeah.
because, again, I know that they are all safe
Yeah.
and I am just not going to have to worry about, losing any of those photos should another hard drive crash. So we use
Right.
two hard drives. We have a photos hard drive and then we back up a second hard drive.
Yeah.
And that just works really well. It's safe, we have the second backup,
Yeah.
very easy to use. And with photos with Apple, it's very streamlined in between both your phone and your computer. So it makes it really easy to organize them if I come onto my computer versus having to try and organize everything just on my phone or through another app that wouldn't have necessarily like a computer sync feature with it. So
Yeah.
that
And
has
you
worked
have
really
a
well for us.
whole Apple Photos tutorial that you're putting inside of our step library in our step program. So for those people
Yes.
who are in our steps to everyday productivity program, go check out your step library. I don't know if it's in there right this minute, but it's coming.
We're working on
We're
it.
working on it.
It's a coming edition.
It's
Yes,
amazing.
Kristen is working on revamping all of that and getting it
Yeah.
into the library as we speak. So it's going to be
Okay.
super exciting.
So we won't go into all the detail of that because you have that all spelled out beautifully there. But I think it is helpful. So, okay, so you have things on a hard drive, but you also have a paid service to get it online. Right now we do hard drives, but then I'm also like, as I'm scanning photos from my parents, I just did all of our family photos recently, that like the printed framed photos that we had, or the professional photos, which were so cute, where all the kids are so little, my parents look so young. But I took all of them and scanned them and put them on the hard drive with the backup hard drive. But I also uploaded them to Google Photos and sent my siblings the link. So I'm doing that like every couple weeks or so. I send them a new link and say, oh, hey, I just put these into a folder in Google Photos so you can have these as well. So I like it because then I do have the full size, the best scan available on the hard drive and it's backed up, and I'll eventually give my siblings each a little, hard drive that they can have all of those. But I like putting them on Google Photos as I do it because then they get to see them immediately and they can share that with all of my nieces and nephews. And most of the time, if you need a photo for a school project or you're putting something up on social media, the size that the free Google Photos service will give you is like, that's great. It's good enough. So it is kind of fun, though, to be able to have them online or backed up like Dropbox. I've been backing up all of Aaliyah's photos. She's on a mission right now in Ukraine for our church. And so she's like, Mom, I need my photos cleaned out of my Google Drive because it's getting full, So I keep downloading and putting them onto Dropbox and onto the hard drives so that we have them, accessible in both places. So anyway, it is just nice to have kind of that cloud backup just in case, but then also having the hard drives.
Yes. And it's just so user friendly that way, like you said. And if you wanted to share any of Aaliyah's photos with any of your siblings here or just, anybody who wanted to see what's happening, you could easily share that link for Google Photos as well. So yeah, I love that. And we also do have Google Photos backup as well. It's a free service. So I just kind of figured, hey, why not? I know some people, might feel a little bit funny about, using these free services and whatnot, but I think that it is definitely worth it. The more, the merrier.
And we're not trying to sound like, hey, we put our photos everywhere. Obviously you want to make it so that your brain doesn't feel overwhelmed by all the locations. But I think just as long as your brain knows, okay, to find this photo, I mean, that's the question I would ask. If I were looking for this photo 5 years from now, would I know exactly how to get to it? And that's how I want my brain to feel, is really calm. Like, oh yeah, if I have it also on Google Photos, great. If I put it here, great. But my brain just knows where it is. And then that helps me not feel that stress or that I don't have to spend any time looking for photos because I know exactly where they are.
Great. So what is your method of choice, April, when you are uploading, like you said, like some of those old professional printed photos that you guys have? What is your scanning method of choice?
Yeah, we're actually shopping for a new scanner right now. The ones that you suggested, which we'll link to these on the show notes page as well. Eric is still searching because he's trying to figure out exactly what size he wants and all that type of stuff. Right now, we just have a scanner that it's like a printer scanner, and I think it's fine. Like the quality is fine, but it's not like great. Like you have to lift the lid and put the photo in and everything. So right now, our process looks like. My boys do this with me on Sunday. It's like our family activity Sunday afternoon. They're actually very good scanners. So we sit down together, they scan, it goes to like a USB as they're scanning because ours isn't fancy yet where it automatically syncs. And then we just take the USB. We've actually been like renaming each of the files, making sure they kind of make sense so that when our family is saving them or working with them later, they can know what things are. And then we just take that from the USB, put it on both hard drives and put it into Google Photos. So that's how we're scanning right now. But it is a process that we're looking to improve because we haven't quite cracked open all like the 50 albums that my dad gave me to scan and all the other photos we have. So we're kind of getting ready. So I'm excited to hear how you would recommend going through the process so that it takes as little energy as possible, but you can get really good results.
Yes. And I mean, that's the thing. Technology has just improved so much, in the last few years. And I'm not one to say like, oh, this one is just the way to go, because there are so many great options and the quality is there and the speed is there. So where it will self-feed the pictures in for you and you can set it up ahead of time, like what you want the file name to be, and
does
everything.
Both sides now too. You can get front and back in case. I know, I love it. I'm like dreaming of
Which
this.
is, yes, it's so amazing to think about, especially with like our grandparents and how they, that's what they did. They took a photo and they wrote on the back of it. So if you want to know anything about the photo, if you don't have the back of the photo, you're missing out on so much of it. So just some fantastic features there. I know Epson has a really nice one. Fujitsu, I think is how you say that. They have a really nice one as well, that can be used for photos and documents as well, cards, that people send you. You could use it
Yeah.
for that to
Mm-hmm.
store, as well. So just a lot of great, great options. And then again, as you're going through and you're starting this scanning process, again, just using that logical structure of like your folders or albums for, again, whether it's each year, whether it's a group of photos from, your teenage years, different things like that. Your niece's wedding could be its own folder. Your child's graduation, just different things like that within each year is going to make this so much easier when
Mm-hmm.
exactly 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when you're trying to find that photo, just having it named and in that logical place is just going to be so, so helpful.
Yeah, I love it. And I think the important thing to remember at this point is you can start with what you have. And then as you continue to work on it, you could, yeah, upgrade to a new scanner. You don't have to wait though until you can afford the perfect thing. And that's
Oh,
where I feel
absolutely.
like we were kind of waiting, like, oh, well, we shouldn't scan anything until we have the very best. But the thing is, they improve every year. So you really can't ever get there. So for us, we just decided, okay, these are the pictures that we feel good about doing right now. And we'll wait on maybe these other ones, but I think it's just work with what you have to get a result that you feel good about. But we use that word satisficing a lot, where it's like find
Hmm.
something that's just it's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfection, and because otherwise,
Yes.
perfection, you're never gonna do it. And yeah, you can leave boxes and stuff for your grandchildren, great grandchildren to scan someday, but they maybe never will. So when you're really thinking about what kind of legacy you want to leave or what you want to stay with your life, I really think the way that we put together these photos and keepsakes and things that really are important to us, they're going to carry the message. It's like our little time capsule we're creating for the future. So,
Yes, I love that so much. And again, I love that you said, use what you have right now. I just started with that because we have had Apple products for as long as I've had a smartphone. So we had years and years of memories kind of already built into that
mm-hmm.
system. And, when you already have a program that's set up that you can use tags, you can name people where it can use facial recognition to
Yeah.
pull people into albums, different things like that. So I just started there. But again, like what you have, April, you're using the hard drives and labeling system. You can kind of do the same thing there. You can put the name of the person in the label or the
Mm-hmm.
year, or, you can do it in a very logical way that works for you. And again, just starting where you are is going to make you feel amazing
Mm-hmm.
because that one little step forward, when you're talking about something that's so precious as your family photos and your history, and just thinking about what you're going to leave moving forward as far as your legacy, just moving one more step forward in that
Yeah.
process. Literally every person that I talk to is in the process. Like I don't know anybody who is like 100% like has everything photos wise like organized. Like they like the process that I'm in right now is that I have them, like all of my physical photos and whatnot, like organized downstairs. And so we're waiting to start our scanning process to put them into our photos system as
Mm,
far as digitizing it. So I'm
great.
okay with that right now because I know they're there and I know they're safe. And now
Yeah.
I know it's just like, especially coming into winter, like, hey, I know I'm going to have some downtime this winter where I'm going to be able to go back and visit that project and start that next phase as far as digitizing those ones that I have completely organized now. So it's just so
Yeah.
exciting.
And I think we're going to hire our boys to help, do some of it. As of right now, it's all been 100% service. So we haven't paid them for it. But I'm like, that could be a nice little job for them, learning how to do it, learning how to organize this file. So we're pretty
And it
excited.
is a lifelong skill. And, I think that kind of brings us to our last point here is that once you have this system set up, then it becomes something that you want to make into more of a routine than it is a project, because it's definitely a project getting it set up, getting the system started, going through and organizing everything that you already have and just kind of putting that into some semblance. But moving forward, it's going to be so much easier once you have that set up, that it can just be an easy routine. So, maybe it's the first of the month, you go back and, you review all of your digital photos and, you organize those on your hard drive and just get those stored where they need to be stored, and just get that backup system ready. And it's just only going to take literally a few minutes versus maybe, the few hours that it's going to take to get everything up and going in the first place. So once you have that developed, you just need to make that a routine moving forward, and you are going to be in fantastic shape for the rest of your life, honestly.
I love it. Okay, this is super helpful. We're going to put the outline of this. We'll have it available for you on the show notes page. So we'll have that linked here with the podcast. You can get that. But I think just to kind of step back and think about why we do this. I love what Jill was saying about, research showing that when you have photos on display or you're reviewing photos, that really does a lot for your sense of identity. If you have children, it's going to help them know where they fit. I mean, it's so funny. So we have 2 teenage boys right now, 17 and 13. And Eric and I are like, just a few more years, we're empty nesters. Like, we're kind of towards the end right now, which feels crazy. But Sunday afternoon, I asked the boys, okay, what do you guys want to do tonight? And our 13-year-old said, family videos. And I'm like, he asks for that every Sunday night. That's what he wants. He never gets bored of it. And so what we do is I plug my computer into the TV with a little HDMI cable. I plug in the hard drive, and Eric has the best videos on his phone. And so we go to Eric's iPhone photo or folder, and then I go to a year, and then I sort by type, and then we just highlight all the movie files and, press the space bar. Now it's going to play them, and I can just hit the arrow key. And that's how we do it. Because, we don't have the old film strips like I grew up with, and we don't have, the movie camera like we used to, because so many are quick little videos on our phones now. But I set it up, and I lay on a beanbag, and the kids and Eric will sit around in the room, and we just go through family videos together, and we are cracking up. We're reliving vacations. We're reliving Christmas morning. Eric and I always say, hey kids, never tell us we never did anything fun with you, because look at all this evidence. We have done so many fun things with you over your lifetime. And it's just so, so fun. And we're bonding, and we're happy, and we're laughing, and everyone just goes to bed feeling like, oh, look, we're part of this family. We're part of something special. And I want to be able to cultivate that. And even just with my siblings, as I've been, just sending over a few scans, like we did wedding photos, army photos, and I just sent over this past Sunday, the family photos that were loose. And the responses I get back from my siblings, it's like, oh, it's so, these memories, and oh my goodness, I love this, and oh, seeing mom on her wedding day, or seeing dad, how cute he was, back in the army. I mean, like, all of these feelings, they really come to life when you have the photos. And so even though it feels like such a headache sometimes to organize files, I mean, who likes to file, especially digital files? Who likes digital filing? It sounds like the most boring thing in the world. But you've put it together in such a beautiful way, super step by step. It does take a few hours, like you said, to set up the process. But then once you have it in routine mode, it's something, your children can help with, especially as, they get a little older. If you have children in your home, it's something that you can do while you're watching TV. You can just kind of be organizing a few photos. It's something that just becomes part of your life. But this is where, you're creating, this is the visual representation, like you were saying, this journaling of what you're doing. So anyway, any final thoughts or anything else you want to share before we close up?
I just think that you ended it beautifully with that little story right there, and just being able to cherish those memories together. Again, that is what it is all about. We are here to help, and when it comes to photos, I think it is probably the number one requested resource that is asked about from our entire community. And it's just like that weight that sits so heavy on people's shoulders, because they're just like, I have all these photos. Like, what do I do? Where do I begin? Like, where do I even start, so to speak?
Yeah.
And it's just like, if we can just help with just a few tips here, and just to get you started on that process, that's what we want to hear, is more stories like you just shared, just families enjoying these memories together and being able to share, generational photos and talk about grandpa who served in the military and where he was at and where he was stationed. And, again, I just feel like that is going to strengthen families in such a deep and meaningful way. It delights my heart, to say the least.
I love this. Thank you so much, Jill. And now, for those of you who are like, where did Jill come from? Okay, I know. She's amazing. She's one of our amazing team members here at Learn to Become. She's also our coach in our Steps to Everyday Productivity program. If you're wondering, what is the step thing you keep talking about, you can go to learndobecome.com/step for our introductory class. We have a program and a community with thousands and thousands of people who are here to help you not only just organize photos, but be able to create a process to organize whatever projects, routines, tasks, things that you have on your plate so you don't need to feel overwhelmed. Our goal really, we want you to be able to be in those photos, taking those photos, having moments that are photo worthy, feeling like you're living this life you can't wait to wake up and live. And then things like the photo organization, little projects that you can put into place that are going to help you to see more value in your life, feel more excited about it. So we just are so grateful you're here with us at Learn to Become. This specific podcast has been on the list for, years. We've been wanting to record this for so long. So glad we got to finally sit down today. And thank you so much, Jill, for all of your thoughtfulness that you've put into this, putting all these resources together to help us. We just love it. So thank you so much.
Oh, so much fun.
All right, we will close now. Go to learndobecome.com/radio to see all of our show notes. I don't know what episode this is going to be yet because we're just figuring all that out. But you can find it learndobecome.com/radio. Thank you and have an amazing day.